Welcome to the page of AIE, Association of International Educators. And today it is my great privilege. Our guest of honor is Dr. R.K. Mangesh Das, HR consultant, trainer, coach, advisor, co-founder, and the list goes on. So a very warm welcome to Dr. Mangesh.
Thank you so much. I'm eager.
It's a pleasure, sir, to have you on the page of AIE. So just to give you a little brief, we started on 5th April when the pandemic hit, and we wanted to have support to the teachers, and we just wanted to know that we are all around the corner, and we just wanted to empower teachers and empower students and also provide trainings. And we started in that manner, and it was the immediate 10 or 15 members who joined. But I'm so proud to say that today AIE has around 160 members across 100 cities and across 49 countries, sir.
Amazing.
So you are, and this rendezvous with Amita Jain is being watched across 49 countries.
Wow.
So it is a great privilege that you could give us some time, and there are going to be many educators and teachers. Mostly there are educators, teachers on the platform, and they always look out for these inspiring thoughts of people such as you, who has been so highly profound in the HR space and also in their training space. And when we are meeting up with these challenges, so they really look up to listening and interacting with people like you. And most of the time, people don't know how to reach out. So we thought that, this could be the bridge. AI is the bridge to connect the people.
That's great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So sir, how did you get so inclined towards, doing so much of research and the neurological science of teaching? The title itself sounds such amazing, powerful, empowered, concept topic. I don't know what to call it.
Thank you very much, Amitaji. This is really an amazing opportunity. In fact, I have been a teacher for a long time. Now I think it's more than 26 years.
Okay.
And I teach at postgraduate level and at the PhD level to students in the space of management.
Yeah.
So I see, or I have been observing that as a teacher, always we look for mechanisms that can address the gamut of students we get, maybe in a classroom setup or in a setup like this, in an online setup. Yeah. So what I found that every mechanism we follow, whether it is through the mechanism of instruction design and followed sequences, if we can ingrain that information and we can bypass the conscious resistance of the brain to learn something, the teaching becomes fabulous. And the impact is really very long term. That is how I have been looking for mechanisms, although I learned many mechanisms of the science of teaching delivery, where I was hooked with the science, which actually ingrains in the neuroscience of teaching. That's called as neuro-linguistic programming. And what we mean by this is the conscious resistance that the client or the students they make, maybe because of their early experience or because of their beliefs about the topic or the subject they learn, if that can be bypassed and the learning delivery that uses the natural way brain learns, not against the way brain learns, rather if we use the natural way the brain learns and we align our delivery mechanism with the natural way of learning, then that goes, for a long-term learning. And that's where I got motivated to learn this science on this subject, and I thought I will be talking more about it to the participants as we progress.
Wow. So in fact, the first question on my list has already been answered, that why should a teacher, I think that is what you have just spoken to me, that why should a teacher use the technology
Okay, there is something more interesting to this.
Yeah.
Often teachers, we encounter a challenge addressing the distribution of students by their learning styles and interest to learn. In a setup, you will find, suppose there are 100 students, you will find there are about 20% of the students, their learning style and interest to learn may be very high. Then
Right.
there are measure of students who are average, and some students may not have or maybe having a different learning style than the way the teacher
Mm-hmm.
delivers. So in a session structure, we have students who are highly receptive to the information or knowledge shared by the faculty, and some students are average while others are in the low receptive capacity. Therefore, teachers always look for mechanisms that helps in delivery and that can address all the students impacting to their learning. And
Right.
this may include like four major dynamics of learning, such as identifying and categorizing
Mm-hmm.
students based on their preferred learning style, creating a learning state for the students. We say the state of nothingness. If the student gets into the state of nothingness, the information can be actually got into the head. And then making
Yeah.
the teaching delivery based on the resistance-free scientific learning techniques and
Yeah.
delivering learning with the strategy and the neurological levels of the candidates. Therefore,
Yeah.
application of neuroscience always makes a teacher empowered and
Yeah.
influential and just feels like a winner in the delivery setup. That's why I think this is something which if teachers they learn, they will always enjoy their moments of training delivery or teaching delivery.
So, what you're indicating is that how it is being applied in the teaching, how they can use
Absolutely.
the mechanism in
Yes.
applying in a diversified, when we have diversified intelligence, how can we apply it in the teaching in a classroom with where there are like 40 students and each one is at their own pace. So, this will help the teacher to identify
Yeah.
the particular strengths of the child.
Yes. This helps to identify the strengths and the particular learning style of a children of a child. If I understand the learning style of child and I find who are similar in the particular learning style, I group them.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I teach just like it is a
Absolutely.
community delivery mechanism, and that goes
Right.
very very good.
Excellent. So, could you support this just with a simple, an example when we are talking of something like challenges of the students? Then, what major challenges would come uh,
Okay.
to the students in life?
Generally when we talk about training or I mean delivery, any learning mechanism to the students, there are certain challenges generally being created is creating a structure of learning. Like if the
Mm,
structure of learning that we deliver, it does not orient with the natural way of learning, it may not help. And barring that, there are also six other challenges that we face. Number one, as a teacher, when you get into a training or a teaching delivery, are we creating an environment that facilitates
yeah.
the learning of the client or the learning of the
Yeah.
student? That is, we say barrier number one. If we are able to create an environment when student loves to learn, so then the learning becomes very easy because environment becomes a very base level resistance if it is not being done properly.
Yeah.
Then second, does the student display the accurate behavior which helps him learning? Suppose I give a homework, I ask for an assignment in the class, or I do a problem solving. Does the student participate into that? That means, is he or she displaying the behavior which he or she need to deliver? So that non-displaying the behavior becomes another challenge generally in the learning dynamics of a student. The third maybe, does the student have the capacity to learn? Sometimes you will find students they create barrier amongst themselves or students they lack the capacity. Say I am suppose very
Yeah.
simple, I go to the basic level of school level teaching, then maybe I will come to a very higher level of teaching. You will
Yeah.
understand in a school level, the basic measure for subjects that we focus on every student is one is called as the mathematics, because mathematics is
Yeah.
known as the language of logic. If a
Yeah.
particular student they learns math or he or she learns mathematics well, what happens? A kind of logical thinking gets ingrained in the head of the student. Similarly, we have a subject called as the language that helps a person to communicate whatever the
Yeah.
person thinks. So that reduces
Absolutely.
the gap between thinking and communicating. Then we have a
Right.
subject called as science. Science
Yeah.
makes the student to think, structurally, everything structurally with a cause and effect dynamics. So
Yeah.
that's what there is another subject. And then we say social science. Social science makes a person to actually grow like a citizen in any country. Later on, the
Yeah.
student gets a job or does a business or profession. And some
Yeah.
students, they have got a natural incline towards some subjects. Say a student is very good in mathematics and not good in, say, social science, or a student is good in social science, not good in, say, science. So what happens? Maybe a capacity to learn for a particular topic may work as a challenge. Then we say a level up is a challenge of beliefs. Sometimes some
Mm.
students understand they have the capacity, they don't put up the effort because they realize
Yeah.
maybe this subject is not meaningful for me. So that
Right.
belief needs to be worked out. And then there are two more challenges. One is called integrating and seeing an identity, working on that particular topic. And the higher level is, does the topic or subject actually ingrain to the purpose of life of the kid or the student to whom we deliver? That is why the sixth
Yeah.
level of challenges that we actually encounter as trainer
Yeah.
or teachers are environment, the behavior, then capacity, then we say beliefs and values, then we say identity, and last one is mission. So as a teacher, if I can work on these six things, then
Yeah.
learning really becomes very facilitative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, when you're talking about these challenges, would you give them a chronological order, or they could be 1 to 6 placed based upon how each child perceives it, or what is the challenge thrown by the child to the teacher? So, is there order that we have? Hello? 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 Hello?
I think I
Hello?
lost. I think I lost the connection for a moment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think that's the challenge sometimes with Zoom. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's how, although it goes as this, hierarchy, still we can work on, at any level we can work on. Where we find as a teacher, I got to, work on and to align the delivery mechanism. We just can work on at
Yeah.
any level.
Right. 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 So when the teachers come for this type of a training, sir,
Mm.
is there a particular time frame that they need to dedicate to get this type of training, or like what is the time frame that you're looking at, basically?
Okay. Okay. Generally, whenever we discuss the techniques, which is called as instructional design, and
Mm.
instruction design, we have two aspects. One is called macro and micro. When you look at
Yeah.
the micro aspect, one of the very popular technique that we follow is called Gagnes 9, events in the session delivery. And that Gagnes 9 event has actually got a sequence where we structure the time. And generally what we talk about in our neurolinguistic method of delivery, we say, when I go for a teaching, the first thing what I got to do is I got to build up a rapport, because we always understand resistance in a client or resistance in a student is lack of rapport. That is why
Yeah.
if I establish my significant time in building up a rapport, and that's why initial moment when I start teaching something rather than directly coming to the topic, if I come to the experience of the students that I'm teaching,
Yeah.
and then I build up my delivery mechanism, so that goes. So generally, we follow a mechanism called as 30, maybe 60 and 10. So 30 is build up a rapport, 10 we teach, 60 we teach, and 10 we close the learning, because we talk about we call it as future pacing. So we say that whatever the client has learned or the student has learned, it will be applying some part in his or her, futuristic part of the life. So that's how we structure a timing.
Yeah, right, sir. So does NLP help in a sort of imprinting a new mind map in the mind of the student? Like there is some sort of mind mapping that is created, which goes on over a longer period of time, and the knowledge is retained rather than aaj maine learn kiya, tomorrow I write in the paper, third day it's forgotten.
Interesting. Generally, mind mapping is definitely a very powerful tool for things getting ingrained in the mind. What we do when we believe in this aspect of NLP and we teach, there are two sides of it. Number one part is the belief of a teacher about student. Second is helping or taking that belief and creating a mental imprint. So generally how it happens. As a teacher, if I learn about NLP, first I change my own belief system about
Okay.
students. So my belief system about the student is goes like that. Every student, they have a unique model of the world, and as a teacher, I
Absolutely.
respect every student's model of the world. So if I really do that, what happens? I always become I am okay, you are okay, in that life position. If a student has a complaint about the topic, generally I just teacher, we sometimes become angry. We sometimes say, hey, this student doesn't understand. So that moment I'm not in a I am okay, you are okay pattern. That's like one of the belief system we carry with NLP as a teacher is every student is a unique model of the world, and we respect the model of the world. Then second belief system that we believe is that it's called, there is nothing called failure. It's only feedback. If a student didn't learn it today, rather than say, you cannot do anything in this topic, if I can give a feedback, if you do this, maybe this is going to help you. This makes a more of meaning. So we ingrain, this is another belief. Then we talk about students are not their behavior. They're more than that. If today I'm not learning something, that means I'm not a failure. Rather, I'm more than that. So see the another aspect, the resources that the student can use to learn it. Then we say every behavior has a positive intention. If a student displays a non-learning behavior, then there is a positive intention inside the head of the student. He is displaying it because something is bothering. To protect that, the student is behaving a non-learning behavior. So the teacher learns it. Like that, then we say that resistance in a student is lack of rapport. Every student has got all the resources to learn whatever they learn. And the last very pertinent is, if one student can learn, anyone can learn. Just imagine if I'm having this 6 7 belief systems within myself, as a teacher, my approach to students will completely change.
Absolutely.
Then it talks about how I can create an imprint. Generally, we understand any subject the student reads or learns, it is actually an imprint of 5 senses. So the 5 senses we say are how the student sees: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and we say like olfactory and gustatory. So every student, every topic, whether it is mathematics, it is anything. So everything the student learn, maybe it goes and gets imprinted in a visual format, or as if somebody is talking. So that's how it goes. So one simple mechanism we may be, many of the teacher might be following is that there are some students whose preferred mechanism of learning is auditory, may not be visual. Sometimes we say, okay, if it is auditory, you listen the subject more than actually you look at and read. Or maybe you make a lot of self-talking about the topic, then the imprint becomes stronger. So once we know, once we know about the preferred learning system of a student or learning style of a student, then the creating that imprint mechanism becomes very easier. And this works like a magic whenever we keep it on the student.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So just to give you a little brief, I have taught right from grade junior KG, and right up to graduation and post-graduation students across my tenure also of 26 years of teaching. And what you're
Wow.
saying makes sense, because each and every child, there are some children you know who will write one answer 3 times, and there is one there are some children like who have the photogenic memory, and they look at the page and they remember,
Right.
acha, the answer was on 49 page, third line, and they remember like that. And there are some who will keep repeating things. Like I used to always, as a student now, when I'm learning the theories, and I started getting my BA and all the other theories, and I realized I used to speak very loudly and learn when I was a schoolgirl. So then that is the reason I relate, that I probably, that my auditory is, that I was an auditory learner. I used to keep repeating loudly, and exhaust myself speaking so loudly, but I used to keep doing it. And till I think till a major part of my life, till masters, I kept on doing it. It's only now that I think we overgrow, and then we say, okay, you just have to read calmly, and you don't have to waste your energy in reading loudly, and then you groom. Yeah, absolutely what you're saying. Each child has that different sense which the child uses to get their system. So is there any quick technique that you would like to suggest, as older teachers, educators who are listening to us today, that can help a student to build their, particularly the self-esteem, the confidence, now that we see so much of bullying happening, comparison happening, the parents unknowingly, sometimes, I wouldn't say my teaching faculties, we are all humans at the end of the day, and unknowingly sometimes there could be that comparison. And in a family, constantly there's comparison between siblings, there's comparison between cousins, and there's comparison with the friends. So what is one quick technique that, as a teacher, if this child comes to me with the pain in the eyes, how can I help him bring up the self esteem and the confidence? So
And all of us know there is a very interesting technique that we use in neurolinguistic programming, which is called a Swiss. So
okay.
generally, if I deal one-on-one with a student, it becomes very easy to design that Swiss mechanism. So what we do
Mm-hmm.
here, we know every behavior that the student gives is triggered by a trigger. So the
Yes.
trigger may be something that is not supportive for the behavior of a student. So what we do in that Swiss mechanism, we generally talk to the student when the student is very calmer. We ask, okay, tell me, what do you want to see in your behavior that you think is going to help you to learn this subject? Once the
Yeah.
student starts thinking about that behavior, that becomes a desired state in the head of the student, which is like
Okay.
which is that going ahead of that level of lacking of confidence, or maybe which is the
Mm-hmm.
desired behavior, maybe a strong self-esteem, confidence. So in a very rapport environment, we actually let it find out. Then
Mm.
we ask the student, like we help the students to think of that trigger that makes the student to feel like or non-confident, or lack of that
Yeah.
that self-esteem. Suppose the student
Right.
says, when that particular student talks in the class, I
Mm.
feel like I am insufficient. When I
Intimidated.
look,
Intimidated.
I'm
Yes.
intimidated when I look at
Yeah.
the student. So that particular
Yeah.
student becomes a trigger for he or she not participate
Absolutely.
in the classroom learning. Then we
Yeah.
say, okay, next time, the moment you look at the student,
Yeah.
tell yourself a particular supportive word. Say, suppose I say, okay, tell, I'm a winner, something the student is telling, and immediately the student
Positive
sees that
energy.
positive intent, it actually helps. So
Yeah.
indirectly, what we do, we actually run it when one by one we come, we run it a process like that. So generally, we use a word called switch, and we make it that positive imprint to get stronger. A lot of times, you must have seen motivational speakers on the stage. What they
Yeah.
do when they talk to the address to a particular gathering, they tell
Yeah.
them, just visualize yourself what you want. When they
Yeah.
visualize themselves, then he says a very peculiar sound, or he says that yes, or maybe Swiss. Sometimes he says something. By the uttering of that sound, the participants, they immediately hook on to that particular behavior. So this is
Right.
a very powerful mechanism, and more about it can
Mm-hmm.
be learned by any of the Google search. More can be learned, which is called Swiss, that really helps to generate a kind of confidence or a kind of self-esteem that a student looks for while learning a particular topic or subject.
So, while we are talking of the self-esteem, and also that we know that today we are talking of so much of competition in terms to the marks, does NLP also help to achieve, let's say, help the student while they're building up the self-confidence, also help them in the performance? I start performing better. Obviously, when I start performing better, then my self-confidence adds on. I feel empowered. And so does this also help in that?
Amazing question. Every performance or the journey for about a performance is actually an experience.
Yeah.
And in NLP, we say every experience is a subjective structure. So,
Yeah.
and the structure of performance has actually 4 indicators. One
Yeah.
is, this is called TOTE, TOTE. We say
Okay.
test, operate, test, exit. Suppose I
Okay.
want to study a particular topic. First,
Mm-hmm.
in my head, I create a guideline. This is how I'm going to read. So I say, first I
Mm-hmm.
will be reading, then I will be making a note, then I will run it in my head, then I will
Mm-hmm.
deliver. So this is my learning
Right.
mechanism. I create an image.
Yeah.
So this guideline helps me
Yeah.
to do an action which is called operate. So first creating the guideline is test to number 1, then
Okay.
operate, how I'm running. Suppose my
Mm-hmm.
test guideline is that first I will read, then I will write, then I will remember, and then I will deliver. This is suppose a kind of
Okay.
guideline I make. But while
Mm-hmm.
operating, say I do the reverse. What
Mm.
happens? First I underline the book, then I write,
Yeah.
then I read.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what happens? My test guideline and operation guideline doesn't match.
Not
That is why,
much.
as a teacher, what we do, we actually
Mm-hmm.
understand what is the preferred testing mechanism of a student when the student want to
Okay.
learn, and is
Mm-hmm.
he or doing her doing the exact operation mechanism. So this way, if it matches, then the student's performance in any subject can go very good. And I have seen in my during my journey of teachership, I have helped students to get the percentage of marks very good in particular topics where they were not
Yeah.
doing. And this application of TOTE, we say test, operate, test, exit, which is called as a
Yeah.
strategy in NLP, helps a great extent for anyone to learn a topic to the level of giving a performance he or she decides.
So, are there some levels in NLP, sir, or
Yes.
it is just a generic type of a training?
Generally, at an international level, NLP has got basically 2 levels if somebody wants
Okay.
to learn it, which is called as a practitioner level. Second is called as a master practitioner level. So the
Yes.
practitioner and master practitioner level makes a person to learn ample amount of the techniques, tools of NLP. Further, if
Right.
someone wants to become a trainer, then there is a
Yeah.
third level called as a trainer certification. And then
Yeah.
if somebody wants to become a master on that, then he or she can become something which is called as a master trainer level. So there are
Yeah.
basically 2+2 levels, and that helps someone to really, really grab each and every tools of neuro-linguistic programming within himself or herself.
Right. Right, sir. So, I'm sure the teachers, educators, and principals or other policymakers who are listening to our conversation are going to be very encouraged to come forward and try to incorporate this type of a training into their basic practice. And now, especially when we are facing so many challenges. I mean, we all know that what is the rate of emotional rate that the students are facing. They are going through the stage of depression. There is a lot of addiction coming in, and I'm sure that with this conversation, so friends, I would like to also invite you that in the coming time, when we declare our calendar, there would be some specific workshops by Dr. Mangesh, and he will be more than warmly welcome you to join in the 3 levels that he's discussed. And the whole intention is that as educators, as teachers, sir can help you to bridge the gap that you're facing with your students. And slowly moving on to, finishing one level and the second and the third, as sir has just mentioned. So that is a brilliant, the way the program has been, I would say, allotted, so that a person gets, it's not that the whole pie is served at once, sir. It is just divided into, you gradually go into it, you enjoy the first level, then the second and the third. So amazing. That's something I think my friends and other educators on this page and on the Facebook and otherwise also would be very interested to know and to learn from you, sir. And certainly through our conversation, it has been very clear that we can integrate the neurological levels for learning. Is that correct, what I'm understanding?
Absolutely. When we integrate the neurological levels to learning, the 6 levels we spoke about, learning
Right.
really becomes solid. And one
Yeah.
more information also I would like to share. We actually represent an organization called as ANLP India. So
Yeah.
which has been, very facilitative and all. So anybody who wants to learn
Yeah.
more about NLP can connect with me or maybe the organization. We will be definitely helping them out and how to integrate with the neurological levels, the learning delivery mechanism. There are beautiful mechanisms of, training are there. So we
Yeah.
follow, so sequence wise we go so that the classroom setting becomes very powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. So I'm sure that we will be reaching out to you and saying that, sir, we would like to have more of you. And from your busy schedule, you could give us these 40 minutes. And I know how busy you remain, and you travel across the globe. And now, even locally, you're traveling a lot to train the teachers and the educators and other principals of many schools have got trained. I am going to book myself very soon for one of the trainings. So that is the intent, that if we have a batch created, so we are looking forward to having a training with you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It was a great pleasure to have you on our platform, and we look forward to more sharing and coming through this page. So, friends, this is a goodbye from Amita Jain right now. And the program, which was scheduled for Sunday because of the Shera, when my friends, a lot of friends are busy in doing the puja and other Vijayadashmi festivities are enjoyed. So we had to request sir that instead of Sunday, let's do it on Tuesday. And very graciously, he allotted us the time, because I know his calendar remains booked and his diary is completely chock-a-block. So it was a good thing that he shifted our time and we could do it today with you all, guys. I will see you in another 5 days. And as per our promise, we will be back on the page of AIE on Sunday with another great speaker and another interesting episode of Conversation Rendezvous with Amita Jain. Thank you, sir. Have a great evening and
Nice
have a
of you.
great week.
Have
Thank
a
you, sir.
wonderful moment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.